incredible times request, important shifts and change from all of us. And, havening more so than ever before is, I kind of been thinking, I don't know if anybody else is feeling this way, but my God, I feel like the root ends created this for us for this moment. Because this is a tool that we literally have in our hands. It's something that we can proactively teach people to do right away, immediately. It's something that empowers us to do consistent, to keep doing the reprocessing work that we've already been doing in our offices safely with the same really incredible outcomes. And, I don't know of any other modality, and I've trained and studied a lot of different types of trauma treatment modalities that gives us these same opportunities. Now, that being said, given the fact that we're living in a world where toxic stress is currently rampant, even just down to walking a dog and trying to figure out how do you pass on that sidewalk with that dog is now a stressful experience. Or somebody walks past us and they're not wearing a mask and you're wearing a mask, and our little brain can throw up an alert going, well, why aren't they protecting me or them? And the mask rules are completely changing right now, as we know. So the idea of doing really safe, successful, self-havening, trauma reprocessing work has just been highlighting for me. And it's really been, something that my teams and I have been talking a lot about. And so thought I'd just throw together a quick and dirty slide deck. It's not gorgeous. And I'm just so glad everybody showed up, and we are recording this. But just to talk about how do we put some structure in place so that we can really continue to facilitate safe and effective healing and really do the work that we're here to do and sponsor the greatest outcomes that we can. On the heels of, we've just got so many moments. We had Bieber, and then we had all these news articles coming out. I don't know about others, but I just got off I did a lecture this morning with Kaiser. We're in conversations with City of Hope. It's just so many opportunities. And this is, as trainers, we've been talking a lot about the tipping point of havening, and I think we're here. And it's largely because of the opportunity to continue to do really proactive work. So let's dive on in here. What I'd like to do first, I need to calm my own energy down because I'm feeling a little kinetic when I realize, wait, I'm not as good as meetings as I thought I was. I'd like to start with a little meditation, a havening exercise. For those of you who've done my trainings or my seminars in the past, this might look familiar. And I think right now familiarity is good. And I am, of course, happy to share this with everybody and put it up on the Havening website. So I'd like to, let's just start with a little havening exercise, if we may. So I'd like to invite everybody to take a gentle breath in. Notice the environment, your feet grounded on the floor in front of you, the chair that's holding you up. Just passively pay attention to the state of your body right now. Don't try to change anything. Just inviting your awareness to travel from the tippy top of your head down to the tippy toes of your toes, greeting and welcoming the data that your mind and body is holding in this moment. Welcoming in a gentle breath and inviting a little more relaxation, your shoulders dropping a little lower, perhaps your jaw loosening, your eyelids feeling a little heavy. And welcoming in another deep, gentle breath and an easy, slow exhale. And as you're ready, I'd like to invite you now to start applying the self-havening touch. Hands, arms, and face in any order that feels comfortable for you. And again, inviting your attention to connect with your breath. Notice how your body knows just how much breath you need. Notice with interest each exhale and each inhale, and the opportunities They're inherent in this moment as you continue to breathe. And as you continue to breathe, notice if there's a moment or an energy that you'd like to invite into this moment right now. Like an experience or an awareness that you'd like to carry into the rest of your day. And ask the question, what if I was filling that statement, completing it with your chosen state? Perhaps ponder the expansive opportunities of being present and calm, of being curious and inquisitive, of being healthy and well. And again, ask, what if I was? And notice if your chosen state has a color or a temperature. Notice if it lives somewhere inside you. Ponder the exciting opportunities of breathing in that color. And then allow yourself to breathe in that color. Deepening your relationship with that what if I was, that energetic state that you're inviting. To invite you to take in another deep, gentle breath, inviting that color, that warmth, that energy to become expansive inside of you. To become a part of your mind and your body in this moment. Again, noticing how your breath and your body know just how much air you need. And when you're ready, I'd like to invite you to welcome that energetic state, to be a part of this moment, to be a part of this day. Perhaps give it a name or a label. It might simply be grounded or calm. Perhaps it has a name like Bob, who knows? And invite that energy to travel with you throughout the course of the day, knowing that because you've done this loving, tender work, it's present just at a moment's notice as soon as you check back in with that color and ask that question, what if? And now as you're ready, let's complete this exercise with one more deep, gentle breath in, counting into 5. And an exhale to 6. And let's continue on with our experience. Thank you, everybody. I needed that, so that was very useful for me. I hope it was useful for you. So we are in a time of unique difficulty and expansive innovation and opportunity. I can feel my entire body is just like, I love havening so much. And one of our goals with havening, obviously, is to take distress and transmit it, transduce it, as the havening experience does, into a sense of empowerment. And to work to create this space between what our friend Amy's doing back here. And for those of you who don't know me, by the way, Dr. Kate Truitt, hi. I'm a trainer, global coordinator of continuing education, and I lovingly call our little friend the Amygdala Amy, because she is our friend and she's here to keep us healthy, safe, and well. That being said, sometimes she gets a little overwhelming in terms of her presence and can be a little bit of a bully to the rest of our brain and our body when she starts to feel like she's really, really right. And so we are in a time right now where even the most innocuous stimulus, a sneeze from an allergy, our little Amy's going, no, that's a death sentence. And that this is the first time in our lives where our own biology and the biology of those that we love can actually hurt us. This is also one of the first times as a species where, as a rule, we are being told that we are not allowed to connect with the people that we love and care for. And why is that so important? Well, we have two little amygdalae, and our left amygdala is all about connecting to safe others. And so what has been put into place in order to save all of us is a very real truth that we do not get to connect to others right now in ways that we're used to. And again, though, havening is a wonderful hack, because even as we give ourselves the self-havening touch, and Fee and I were having a chat about this the other day, it's almost as though we're hacking giving ourselves a hug as we're talking to and spending time on video with the people that we love. I'm giving all of you a hug, and my brain's going, oh, hugs, right? So what an incredible, incredible gift that Steve and Ron have given all of us. And so now, as we're doing this work with the people that we're blessed to serve, our goal is to recognize that just, at the beginning of this year, here we were, Calvin, walking along. And then we tripped. And depending on where we are in the world, it's tough, really tough. And our goal as humanity is to get to the point where we come out on the other side and say, ta-da, we made it, we did it. And I know, I believe, and I truly believe, and I know that havening is going to be a huge part of helping humanity get here. That being said, as practitioners, we have certain responsibilities to do our job, to be really mindful of the huge vulnerability that is expanding across the global world right now. And so to adjust the protocols that we would usually be using, to be mindful of this inherent vulnerability, to create the greatest successes. And that's why we're all here right now. So why do Emily's matter? Well, we all know what Emily's are. And the fact of the matter is our brain is hardwired to find threat in every moment. And so even a hand puppet for a tiger can feel like a tiger. And so Emily's are really important when they're in very real experiences of a threat to survival. But we're living in a world right now where our amygdala is hyper extending the experience of tigers through many, many, many contexts. And the home environment even can become dangerous. For example, I had a client I was working with yesterday whose sister's a physician, and the sister came into the house to pick up some materials, and my client had a panic attack when she saw her sister walk in the front door. She didn't know she was coming over, and her sister was in scrubs. Now, she didn't know that her sister had showered, changed, put scrubs on. She had her masks on. She thought her sister was just getting off a shift. So what did her brain do? My sister now has the opportunity to kill me. Her brain, Amy, literally reacted as though her sister was walking in the door with a gun. And that's what our clients are navigating right now, and that's what we're navigating as well. And again, remember that trauma can encode first person, second person, third person. And so those guns are as very real as a news story popping up on our phone. Right? So we have to be really careful and loving towards the individuals we work with, as well as ourselves, to incorporate protocols to mitigate this increased vulnerability. So we want to help Amy calm down and be mindful that as we're doing our reprocessing work, that complex content and context have a different level of meaning for all of us. Now, just a quick recap of complex content and context. Remember that these are these neural networks that build through our brain to help us make sense of the world around us. So we have that basic threatening content, and that's what Amy encodes. Those are those 5 senses. But then our thinking brain will pull in additional data and framing. And that's the complex content and context. So the idea of a sneeze is no longer a sneeze. That's content that also has different meaning. Her sister sneezing has different meaning than her father sneezing, because she's been quarantined with her father for 4 weeks now. But father sneezing has an even different complex content, because father sneezing might mean that he has coronavirus. So there's so many different layers within all of this. Even, I don't know if anybody else has had this experience. I went to get on the elevator this morning. Our offices have been quarantined since March 4th. We transitioned everything to telehealth, and I have a better internet connection here, so I'm here. And I just went and casually pushed the elevator button, and all of a sudden I felt my chest hiccup. It's like, okay, this hand is now dangerous until I can wash it. What a crazy, crazy, crazy experience. So this is the very real reality of the complex content and context. And so when we think about even what touches are we using as we're working with people, being mindful that we want to shift likely away from the face and focus exclusively on arms and hands, because we're modeling what society is repeatedly telling us, which is we don't want to be reigniting the amygdala even more as we're doing trauma reprocessing. Touching the face now is traumatic. Oh, okay, sorry. That's strange. Hold on, let me fix this. All right, there we go. Got it? Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. So here's Calvin and Hobbes again. And I'm going to move our Zoom chat over here. There we go. Perfect. All right, so, well, you already heard all this content, so. All right, everybody can see now. All right, perfect. So our goal, I mean, the good news is pretty much everything I was saying matters regardless of if you could see the screen. But it's prettier when you can see what I'm talking about. All right. So the main purpose I wanted to do this chat today, besides to highlight how sometimes technically non-adept I am, is to really talk about these little nuances that we need to make in order to sponsor really proactive and specific engagement. So that the one that I was just talking about is just a little tiny one of the idea of touching our faces right now could get Amy more activated. And so when we're doing trauma reprocessing, do we want to utilize something that could increase engagement, or do we want to stay away from that and utilize places of safety? Now, how do we check in on that? Do we want to make a presumption that says arms and hands are dangerous for everybody, or arms and face is dangerous for everybody? No. It's just doing a reassessment with everybody that we work with in a telehealth space. Are the screens changing now? Yeah, perfect. Okay. So as I'm sure everybody here has already transitioned or is transitioning. If you haven't, you're making choices, and that's great too. Continuing to be of service in the way that is safest for you. And if you are still seeing clients in your office, again, leaning back on the public service announcement that headquarters asked that I put out, be mindful to only do self-havening, don't do facilitated, just so that you do, engage with the social distancing processes. If you haven't already done a new assessment of how to safely use telehealth with your patients, or your clients, I do recommend revisiting some of the baseline fundamentals of havening so that everybody is on the same page with, this is how we do this work right now. Now, I want to, again, caveat this. A lot of us have been doing telehealth for a long time. This is a different time, and paying attention to that is what matters, and to lead out with your clients that, we have to make some specific adjustments given the chronicity of the stress that's in our environment, given the data that's constantly popping up around us, to proactively engage for success. And so I do recommend stepping back with all of your clients and doing a reassessment of what are their preferred safe touches, so that we're not making assumptions. I have been really surprised at how many of my patients are like, I don't want to touch my face right now. I feel like I'm wiring in a neural memory when I'm being told to navigate the world and not do that. And so it's a really quick assessment. And then I have been revisiting with everybody the conversation about the brain, and walking through the brain science, how Amy hijacks us, revisiting the role of the thinking brain. And that's helping them remember that they're not crazy, that their brain is being a brain, and Amy's running the show to do her best to keep them safe right now. So the more we can normalize what's happening in the world around us, the calmer we feel across the board. And so there's been some conversations on in different mediums, or I've been getting emails from people about, if somebody's operating at a 5 in terms of that 0 to 10, what does that mean? And to me, a 5 right now is probably going to be expected for most of us. We want to proactively bring us down as frequently as we can, and do our self-havening work to calm our systems down. But there's a good chance we're going to go back up because we are being inundated with data. Additionally, especially for individuals who are working with first responders, police officers, physicians, nurses, anybody who's on our essential workers right now, grocery clerks, all these people who are out there making sure that we can continue to be okay, they're probably definitely going to be at a 5. And endeavoring or feeling frustrated because you're doing havening work and they get down to a 0 and then they bounce right back up. That to me is a part of the environment that we're living in right now. And so we want to continue to give people this information to disseminate that this is normal. This is a unique time in the world, and to be mindful about building in protective moments to help their brain calm down. And again, that also is about tribe and community. And so these, seeing everybody's faces pop up. You guys could hear my glee so much so that I forgot how to use tech. Because I was like, oh, my people. Okay, my people. And so the more we can encourage our clients to do that, to set up dates, do video chat, do dinners with friends and family across the world, the more I know as trainers and headquarters, we're working really hard to put together a bunch of connection points for the community. That's helping Amygdala, helping Amy calm down anyway. Additionally, what we also want to do is, this is something that we use, as you're moving into telehealth right now, build a really clear distraction inventory for your clients and request that they keep that inventory on hand while you're doing the work. Now, why might you need to do a new one? You might say, well, I know my client's inventory forwards and backwards. We've done it a million times. Well, they're now perhaps working or doing havening work at home for the first time. And the contextual cues of this environment might render some of their historical inventory items no longer safe. Or the rapid shifting environment that we're in right now might do that. Now, I have a lot of clients for whom going to the beach has historically been a wonderful distraction. But as we've been noticing what's been going on with people flocking to the beaches right now, that brings up a lot of rage for some of my clients. So the beach now is, people are going to the beach, which means that my sister, who's a physician in Florida, is going to be on the front line saving the lives of all these people who've chosen to go to the beach. And she could die because these people are going to the beach. And that's a real reality of the world we're living in right now. And so we want to reassess our inventory that we're using with each client and just make sure that our distractions are still neutral and positive for them. We don't want to make any assumptions right now. Along those same lines, we want to make sure that our clients have their distraction inventory at home with them, so that as we're doing our havening work and trauma reprocessing, if there is a disruption in our Wi-Fi connection, one of the things that's happening across the board is our internet is stressed out. Like the amygdala of the internet's having a really hard time. It has never had this much responsibility in its entire lifetime. And so disruptions, loss of connection, all of those it's real. We freeze. I've frozen a couple times even in the course of this, and I'm connected with about the highest end of corporate broadband that I can be, and it's still lagging, that is just what it is. So making sure that you have an action plan in place for if there is a loss of connection and, both personal and Wi-Fi, your clients know what to do. Because there's nothing worse than being in the middle of TH and, you're hopeless, and then all of a sudden collapse. And the brain is going to have the opportunity, and Amy's going to have the opportunity to go, see, even this doesn't work. And so you want to make sure you have a game plan in place with your client that says, if this happens, we know why, the internet's stressed out, we'll reconnect in just a minute via phone or via video, And in the meantime, start doing distractions and continuing your self-havening work. Because what we're doing is turning off those neural networks that we've opened up so we can do the trauma reprocessing. That's a really, really important part to make sure that your clients have that available to them. Similarly, when you're doing your own self-havening work, or even just right now, have your distraction inventory available. Put it somewhere where you can see it as a gentle reminder to say, okay, I'm going to heal myself right now. I'm going to take a time out. You know, some of you know, my mother's been in and out of the hospital, and it's a pretty severe, really scary situation for her right now. And I have this taped to my wall next to my screen so that I can look at it. Whenever a text comes in, I feel my body energy go up and I go, breathe, warm, fuzzy hug, Amy, warm, fuzzy hug. And then we sing, and then I sing Itsy Bitsy Spider. You know, so it's being also really proactive to model what we're preaching, because when Amy gets going, she feels like she needs to be scared, and that's going to be really, really comfortable for her to be scared because she feels like she's protecting us. And so if we keep in mind that idea that the brain is, yes, I'm happy to email this to everybody. We can model, if we can keep in mind that our brain is going to feel comfortable being in a threat state because that Amy feels like she can then protect us, then we want to be even more intentional about reminding ourselves to calm our brain and body down. So review with your clients the touches. That's your takeaways from this slide. Redo your inventory to make sure that you have a safe inventory for this time. Don't make assumptions that what was safe before. And so what I just picked up, this is something we called CPR for the amygdala. And Teresa Lanahan actually put this amazing grid together of different choices and so we give this to our clients so they have a bunch of options, and then they can just keep it right front and center. And again, I'm more than happy to send this to everybody. We're also doing I'm partnering with a nonprofit on the 20th. We'll have a self-healing seminar that's a 4-hour seminar that is basically a deep dive into this more specifically, and this will be part of it. So stay tuned for that. So when we're doing our regular event havening, the process isn't going to change very much right now. The thing that will change is I recommend doing a lot more event havening than you would historically. The reason for that, again, is that the system is more vulnerable. Yeah, oh, Rebecca, if you can answer questions as they come in, I know you're my sidekick at that. That's amazing. She does my webinars with me. We want to protect the system as much as we can. And so if we look at the idea that Amy's got a lot of historical grenades back there that are just waiting to go off. And then we're living in the trenches right now. Rather than diving in and targeting a lot of neural networks with transpirational havening right off the bat, even though I know there's a pull to do that, what we want to do instead is basically take out the grenades one by one. That will continue to help the brain heal, and that will strengthen Amy, healthy strength, resilient strength, without running the risk of moving into an abreaction. We are going to be at a higher level of likelihood for an abreaction right now than we would have been at any other time in history, because not only do our clients have complicated stories that their brain is carrying with them full of wounds and pain, but our society is immersed in that, and we no longer have safe other in the same way that we have before. So I highly recommend leaning into a lot of event havening to help Amy feel strong before moving into doing a lot of intensive transpirational work. Along those same lines, well, let me finish up on this. So as we're doing our event havening, we can still continue to do really, really deep work. And so this doesn't mean that we can't work with basal ganglia encoded memories. So for those of us who have body memories, if we're working with early childhood experiences, we can still do that really incredible work. If somebody doesn't have memories of something that happened in their past, we can still do that work. But what we're going to do instead is focus on a different type of target called a felt sense target. And the felt sense target is what we more historically would have been targeting with our transpirational work. So instead, we're finding the thought, I'm not good enough. Where does that live in the body? And anchoring into the somatic experience of that thought and targeting that with event havening. And if you haven't done that before, try it out. You might be surprised at how really effective it is. Now, there might still be some vestiges or some neural networks around these less than preferable thoughts that hang out, but you can still de-link a lot of the anchoring that has happened around that coral neural network. Just like we talk about, if you find the core encoded event, all subsequent networks collapse once you've de-linked that. We can do that similarly with these felt senses. And we have a lot of body memories, a lot of somatic energy that people are coming up with, because health anxiety right now is rampant. And so if you've been tracking our YouTube channel, I've been doing a lot of conversations around that. And then on the 10th, I'll actually be doing a webinar with Francis on specifically health anxiety, coronavirus anxiety, and how to work with that specifically. So this is a little bit of a teaser, but leaning into the idea of focusing on event havening is not going to stop the efficacy of the work that you're doing. And that's sometimes what I hear people get worried about that. What it's going to do is ensure safety. And when we have those amazing moments of just event havening and people open their eyes and go, oh my gosh, it's gone. That's an incredible moment. And it's still really deep, sustainable healing. So I love transpirational havening as much as the next person. I often talk about how that is like one of the bread and butters of havening. It's one of my most favorite things in the world. But we want to be really, really, really careful right now because of all of the additional complex traumatic content and context that's in our environment, whether we even know about it or not. Right. I had a session yesterday where I was doing an interview with somebody, and her husband walked by and sneezed, and she sat up bolt right. I was like, Jamie, and she's like, I just don't know what it is. I'm like, oh, that's Amy, And so she's like, okay, let's just do a little bit of this. And, they've been quarantining since the first week of March. So we are all so primed right now. And that's that first, second, third person traumatization piece. So really lean into event havening as you're doing the work and supporting people to safely continue to do trauma reprocessing. Now, our senses, as we know, this is the primary language of Amy. And so we are going to continue to anchor into our senses as we're pulling up traumatic experiences, whether it's an actual acute distinct event or if it is a felt sense memory. And so for those of you who are working with individuals who are on the front lines or who are on the front lines, our very own Kim's son is on the front lines every single day. And so walking out wearing those masks, well, you can be sure that those masks have a certain smell. And so talking to people about being intentional about taking 10 minutes to do self-havening on their own outside of session to de-link that smell from their amygdala is really important. The experience of wearing gloves, that's a very specific felt sense. And so if you have, or we all are, walking around with gloves on, masks on, all of these sensory experiences, being mindful at the end of the day to clear out Amy around what we've experienced on this day so that we can go to bed calmer and more resilient. Along those same lines, making sure that we teach the individuals that we work with to do these processes and having these conversations. Because they don't know that the amygdala doesn't speak English, that she doesn't speak Mandarin or French. They're just going, my brain's freaking out. And it's like, yeah, well, what are you noticing? I just keep feeling this energy in my throat. Well, that's a sense. And so we'll use that as a target. And when we use that as a target, sorry, Eugenia keeps getting kicked out. Welcome back. Then we're also giving them data to know that that felt sense in their throat doesn't mean that they have coronavirus. It means that Amy's freaking out, and to give Amy some love with intention, because that's agency and resiliency. When we can be proactive about the work that we do, we can be proactive about building resiliency and feeling like we have choice in this moment. So being really, really mindful to talk to people and share this information with them. And that's also why I said, can I do this webinar? I think this is really, really important. Now, let's talk about the SUDS, because right now SUDS is going to be something that we need to be really mindful of. If you have a sense that somebody has a trauma that is at a 10, historically in the office, I'll say, go for it. Cool. Because we got this. With Havening, a 10, no big deal. Give me a 50, no problem. First time I ever, met Steve Fee, Ron at New York 2014, I was definitely the jerk in the conference who was like, hey, Steve, here's my level 9,000 events in a breakout group. And well, it depotentiated in 15 minutes. So I drank the Kool-Aid. I was in, and here we are. So we know that when we're able to do that really solid one-on-one work or group work even, we can make really, really proactive change. But we want to be careful right now because of the distance and because the brain is more primed for trauma and stress to work with events in a different way. So if somebody has a 10 event, what I recommend doing is circling that grenade a little bit and finding smaller moments of activation. I like to talk about the idea that we're softening up the event before we dive deep. So if it's a car accident, you might focus on the sound, and then you might focus on the experience after the event or what they saw. And so you're just going to notice details and depotentiate those details down to a 0 before going into the core. Because again, we're at a greater risk for abreaction because the brain and body are more vulnerable than they've ever been before. And so right now work might take a little bit longer, but as we know with Havening, it's still 10 times faster than anything else. And it's way, way more gentle and efficient and effective. So having, again, that conversation with our clients that we've been working with for a long time so that they're aware of this and they know why we're shifting course a little bit and that it's for their safety. Because if they're used to us saying, okay, we're going in for the big T, and all of a sudden we're stepping back a little bit, that might make them feel unsteady, like we feel nervous or hesitant. And so we want to lead with the conversations of, hey, just being mindful of everything that's going on in the world right now. We're just going to revisit our stepwise process that we did, however long ago it was that you started working with them. We want to empower them with data as much as possible. So before we get to the big T's, I usually recommend finding the little elements that are around a 5 or 6 right now, maybe a 7. Now, if you have somebody that has an incredibly resilient brain, you've been working with them for a long time, then obviously use your clinical judgment. Do what's best for you. You know your people. But if you're bringing in new clients, this is really, really, really important. In my team, we always lead with the idea that for the first 1 to 3 sessions, no matter what, we lead with success. So that means we're finding things that we know we can collapse down to a 0 and move into resiliency building. And so we want to go for that success as much as possible right now, which means not necessarily going for the biggest trauma. And that also gives us the opportunity to learn our clients' brains. We have some clients whose brains are just in love with doing the delta wave work, and their brains love it right off the bat. We have other clients who, because they have a more complicated trauma history or whatever it might be, we need to be a little more mindful. So this is a little bit like we're testing the brain system and still building success and rapport in the relationship as we start with these lower numbers. All right. So I already mentioned this piece. We want to be really, really mindful about reassessing and rebuilding the distraction inventory, just to take care to ensure that our distractions we're using now are continue to be safe distractions. And we want to be really mindful to use more neutral distractions when we are working with a higher level of SUDS, because Amy is primed right now to grip and create fear stories. And she's a choose your own adventure for worst case scenarios, basically. And so if we're at a 9 or a 10 with something and we're using a distraction of going for a swim, well, she's going to be primed to go, yeah, but now back to the sister who's a physician in Florida, and my sister's going to die. And now we have 2 level 20 activation points. And so we might want to lean into more categories if we're at an 8, 9, or 10. or counting or singing songs before we move into some of the more imaginal exercises. So just being really, really careful and kind in the choices that we're making with our distractions, and again, informing them and letting our clients and our patients know why. And as much as we can, loading with visual, temporal, and phonological data, simply to address that working memory piece that has all of these different components to it. So the more we have visual, I'm walking up a staircase, and every 5 steps, this is one that Harry does, and I thought it was a really great one that he does, is every 5 steps as they're walking along a path, they share one thing that they see. Another 5 steps, one thing that they hear. And so you're integrating sensory data points that are safe for the client every step of the way. All right, now let's talk transpirational havening. Because I'm not saying don't do it, and I don't want you to hear me say, I don't want you to hear that that's my message. It is so powerful and so helpful. We just want to be really, really careful. And so there's a couple little adjustments that I've made to our usual protocol. Usually if we're doing, well, any other time, we get down to a 5, a SUDS of 5, and then we can move into doing transpirational havening work. And so what we're going to do is lower that number more, and we want to do it until they're at less than or equal to 3. The reason for that, again, is that the system is more vulnerable. And so as you do your distraction, you're doing event havening, you check in, and if they go, I'm at a 4, I do recommend doing another round of distractions and getting them lower. Now, you're still going to get your bang for your buck with transpirational havening. Just because you're starting at a lower number doesn't mean that the system's not going to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. What it is doing is ensuring that when the brain navigates to another event in the neural network that might have a higher level of activation, you're protecting against that number being even higher. And I'll share what that means. I'll go a little bit more in depth in that in just a minute. So starting at a 3, you're still going to get a lot of great work done. And we also want to change the protocol. Usually we do 3 neural networks. So we might do, I'm a failure, I'm sad, angry, and then we check back in with the target event and get a new sentence. Right now, as you go through one neural network, once you hit the end of that neural network, so they give you that nod of angry has no more meaning in this moment, go back to the event and check in. Because we want to be really mindful that we are navigating with layers. And angry, as that layer has softened and released, the event might have gone up a little bit as these other events have been recalled and remembered. And so if we're back up at a 3, go back into your distraction work and bring it back down to a 3, and then go into the next neural network. So again, we just want to create a protective state for the brain and help our clients feel safe, because the last thing we need in the world right now is for anybody to feel less safe because their brain ran away with them. And so the more we can be really, really proactive about putting these structures in place, the more successful the work will be. And as we know, whether we're doing transpirational havening or event havening, we're still getting really, really powerful work done. So let's just lean into structure and safety for ourselves and for them. And there's nothing worse than having somebody have an abreaction when you're on a screen and we know that they're there and they're struggling to do their self-havening because their brain is in a freeze state or because they're in a panic state. That feels awful for us and for them. And we can't use our nervous systems to regulate the way we might usually. And so we just want to be really mindful. So check back in after one neural network, check back in. And so let's talk about why a 3 as opposed to our usual 5. So we start with, say we have an event that is, I'm feeling alone and rejected at a friend's party. And historically, at a 5, we go, cool, well, let's do some transpirational havening. I'm now going to go into alone. And so you're doing the havening work, and a memory comes up of a 7, and then a 4, and then an 8, and then a 10, and then, hey, I'm not alone, I have friends, cool. And obviously we don't necessarily know what's happening in their brain as they're saying the word alone, 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 alone. But their system, we can tell from the physiological experiences that we're noting and the affective experiences that we're seeing as we're doing the havening, indicates the shifting of the SUDS going up and down the roller coaster experience. Now, in this state right now alone, I mean, and this is a usual slide that I use in training, so some of you might recognize this, but this alone right now is going to be exponentially more ignited, so to speak, than it would in any other situation, because we are being forced to make ourselves alone in a time where we're in deep stress, and the only thing our brain and our body wants is connection. And so in alone from going from a 5 to a transpirational havening, now a 7, that 7 could be a 13. And then the SUDS little girl remembering, you know, being neglected and forgotten. I mean, this is a story from one of my clients. That 10 now is going to be a 30, and she abreacts, right? So if we start lower, we're decreasing the SUDS for all and the activation of all subsequent memories along that neural network. So we're just putting bubble wrap around that neural network and doing that proactively with intention. So you'll see, you'll still get really good work done. We're just being mindful to set the brain up for success. And as we do alone, we get down to the 0. And then now again, we're going to check back into target of feeling rejected at a friend's party. And she might say, even though she's now going, I have friends, she's now maybe going, I'm really sad because one of my friends is on a respirator. And this is actually true for this patient. She and I did a call the other day, and one of her friends is in the hospital and will most likely not make it. And so her nervous system now is all jacked up. And so we got her down to a 3, started doing sad, 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 sad. And then we checked back in on event, and she was angry, and she's angry at a 10, even though we got sad down to a 0. So we did a lot of event havening down again, down to a 3, and then we went into anger. So our systems are right now going to be very different than any other time. The brain is still a brain. And that's what I love about this. As you all know, I'm a neuroscientist and I'm a fear expert, and the brain is so, so cool because it's almost always going to be consistent in how our amygdala is interacting with our thinking brain. That being said, there's some new data, some new variables that our amygdala and the rest of our brain are having to integrate and deal with right now. And so it's just being mindful of that and recognizing that our brain's going to be leaping into other experiences in ways that it wouldn't traditionally do. So it's a little bit like squirrel, 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 as opposed to the gentle roller coaster of TH. Now, as a rule, we never teach our clients to do transpirational havening on their own because of abreaction, panic attacks, and triggering dissociative episodes. Now, so this is a slide that I say when I talk about what do we teach our clients to do at home. I want you to keep these things in mind. If you start to feel the pull to jump into TH earlier with somebody, if you don't know their brain really well, or it's a new client, then keep this in mind, because this is the risk that we run if we get into it too soon. So I just want to be really, really careful to say, okay, I know that we'll get to the work. Right now, this is all about patience. This is all about preparation, preparing to do the work and being patient with the journey that we're on, and supporting our clients and ourselves and having the best outcomes. And I'm sure almost all of us do self-haven along with our clients. Keep doing that. It facilitates that brain hack of the hug, but it also makes our systems not permissive for encoding the work that we're working on. And I don't know if anybody, when I mentioned my patient and her friend on the respirator, you know, that's something that might be happening to a lot of you, has already happened, or could happen. And so we're going to be hearing a lot of really, really hard stories that our AMEs are going to want to latch on to and perseverate on. And so another gift of havening is that we can continue to proactively do our own work. I mean, how cool is that? In what world do we get to do self-healing while we're healing others? Right? It's awesome. So just being really, really mindful to continue to do your own self-healing work as you're doing the work with your clients. But just keep these in mind. These are very, very real things, and they can feel quite out of control when they happen and we're on the other side of the world, or even the city, or even next door. So just, and this is also why we want to make sure that we have our client has their distraction inventory right there front and center, so that we can continue to help them. All right, so our core takeaways are, we want to review the brain science and just remind everybody what's happening. What is Amy doing and why is she doing it? Just give them a refresher course on the neuroscience. We want to review and create new inventories if necessary. We want to be mindful about adjusting our SUDS within the protocols, shifting them for success, so TH at a 3 or less, and then consistently checking back to target as we're doing the work in case other stuff has come up in the course of the work. We want to also make sure that we've put in place a protocol for our clients when we're doing telehealth. Check in before each reprocessing session that they have their inventory with them. And that is a requirement that we do. Okay, hey, Bobby Lynn, show me your inventory. And I actually say, I need you to show me it because I want to know that if there's a loss of connectivity in terms of our Wi-Fi, that they know that they're going to go straight into doing self-havening and distractions. And so the inventory preps their brain to know, uh-oh, connection lost. I'm in the middle of transpirational havening. I'm freaking out a little bit. Oh yeah, Kate said distractions, old McDonald, that's a thing, let's do that. Right, so we're just setting them up for success. And then I didn't go very much into the resiliency work here, outcome havening, all the rest of that. Most of that, follow your regular protocols. You can transition into that work when you're at a 2 or below. You might start transitioning a little lower right now, 1 or 0, just because Amy is by design going to be more reactive and expansive in her engagement in our clients' lives. And the more resiliency work that you can do for your clients and for yourself, the better. And I know when I'm doing resiliency work with my own clients, it feels really, really damn good. So I highly recommend it. And again, that's kind of a selfish hack, but again, in what other world do we get to help people heal from severe trauma and fear while also doing our own healing work? What a gift. So we have a couple minutes left. I'm happy to hang out a little bit longer than this webinar. If people have specific questions, I have a little bit of extra time. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my screen share and open it up to the grid so we can see everybody. And if you have a question, just kind of pop your hand up and we'll just kind of popcorn and I'll call on people. And if you obviously want to log off, feel free to log off. This will be shared on the Havening Facebook page. If you're on my mailing list, you will get a link to this webinar. If you're not on my mailing list and you want to be on my mailing list, we send out a lot of good content. Feel free to pop your email in the chat or shoot me an email and we'll get you added. And then just 2 last pieces of data. Like I shared before, we'll have a 4-hour, let's call it CPR for the Amygdala workshop, how to do your own practice. It's basically a self-havening workshop that I've been working with headquarters on putting together a dedicated slide deck, and our trainers will be training in so that we can host these seminars worldwide. That will be online. And then additionally, we have the virtual training in New York on April 25th and 26th. And then because we already had an April training, same weekend in LA, I'm doing another one that same weekend, but they're 4 morning sessions, and April 25th, 26th, 8:30 to 12:30 Pacific time, and then the second and the third, 8:30 to 12:30 Pacific time, for those of you whose brains explode a little bit with a lot of screen time. So we have a lot of wonderful facilitators coming together, and we have both options available. And of course, the same thing applies. If you go to either training, you're grandfathered in. Your cost for attending this training grandfathers you into any physical training worldwide. So we're working together to, obviously, Havening's amazing that way. So we're just trying to get options available for people. So if you would like information on the 4-day training, again, just pop your information in the chat box or reach out to me directly. So let's open this up for some questions. And there's everybody, yay.
Hey.
All right. So I just threw a ton of data. Questions people have?
Kate, I'd like to, it's Donna Ryan here. I don't have my video on, and thank you for hosting this. I noticed when you said not having folks at home doing transpirational havening, I also tend to not, and I'm love opinion, I tend not to also do event havening just because, unless I know the client really well, the entanglement, the landscape, and I think you're right. I think the landscape is particularly vulnerable or permissive right now. So that might be also a little word of caution around that. Just thoughts, and I'm just throwing that out there. I personally don't do it, but you know, I know other trainers do.
Yeah.
And
And we've continued to do EH, but like I said, with the specific protocols in place of we're kind of circling the big trauma and targeting little trigger points until we get into the core trauma. And again, with setting up the structure of making sure that they have their inventory. And if as the first 1 to 3 sessions, we're not going into big T stuff, we're starting with smaller T stuff in order to understand the client's brain better. And I mean, my sense is that right now we're in this for probably 6 to 9 months. I hate to say that. And if that's activating for anybody, I think this is going to be quite a journey, and honing your skills and doing really successful telehealth is really important. Now, and Donna, I want to highlight also, you know, that we're always looking at scope of practice. And so if somebody who has some big T traumas and you're not a highly trained in working with big T traumas, you know, we have a wonderful community of people who are, so do collaborative care. We want to be really careful to stay within our scope of practice. And sometimes if somebody starts to have an abreaction, we might need to lean into other tools for abreacting. And so if you have a sense that, you know, say you're a cranial sacral, or if you're a life coach and you haven't been trained extensively because that's not your area of focus in big T trauma, you know, reach out to somebody who you know is and do adjunctive work. My team and I do a ton of that. So thank you for highlighting that, Donna. That is really, really important.
Thank you.
Teresa, did you have a thought?
Okay. No, just plain.
All right.
Hi, Kate. I'd like to say just a few thank yous for this particular presentation. I think there's a lot of information here. I think it causes us to reflect back upon our own protocols and how we're doing them now. I think added structure is very helpful at this time. And I'd just like to make some just personal comments for the group. First of all, I think that self-care is something that we all must focus on as much as patient care. I don't know about you, I'm living in New York now, and the collective essence of what's happening here, I need to do more self-care than ever before. The second thing is as people who help other people, I think it's not a bad thought to begin to develop what I call a meta position. That is looking at a circumstance and saying from above and saying, why is this going on? This doesn't seem to be within a normal framework of what I'm used to. So instead of being at the ground level of observing something that seems to be incongruous, try to take yourself and look at it from above and say, okay, what's going on here? And I think that's sometimes helpful that you can remove yourself from that dynamic interaction. And the third thing I think I'd like to share with you is this. Donna mentioned it, and I know Kate mentioned it. Landscape is going to become more vulnerable as we move through this period of time, both for ourselves, our loved ones, our family. There is nothing that's going to change that. So understand that we can expect to see people behaving in ways that would not normally be there because our landscapes are now so sensitized. You know, we have a fortunate position because we can view it from that perspective. And if we view it from that perspective, it prevents us from engaging in, because we're really, you know, we're necessarily not the same either. So it helps us, give us a perspective to take a breath, take a step back, and have the understanding of the moment that we're in and try to respond in a way that you would, a homeostatic way, a way that brings back homeostasis to the moment rather than accelerating the moment. So I wish everybody safety. Everyone here in New York is trying their best. I mean, we still have an enormous slog ahead of us, but hopefully we'll be able to get through this as well. And I wish everybody here safety and just take care of your loved ones and your neighbors and your friends and your community. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And thank you again for giving us this gift.
Oh.
Any other questions?
Another thing, kind of follow on what Steve talked about, is the landscape's going to change. The landscape's going to change because not just the physical things that are going on, going to the grocery store, so on and so forth, but the businesses that are going to fail because, and the money stressors that are going to happen as well. That's also going to be a shifting and very long tail through this.
Yeah.
So, Kate, to your point of kind of checking in with our clients and patients, is really something I think we need to kind of put in kind of on a rolling cycle, because the physical thing is one thing, that's the family, but also my income, my life, my insurance, my everything also is going to be under, have an earthquake as well.
Yeah, and thank you, Steve. That's such an important point, and good to see you, by the way. These entire conversations expand, like I said, across months, and hopefully, we won't be extending into years, but we are in a time of deep global change right now, and there's some pretty big statistics out there. And so I also want to highlight leaning into this community. And there's so many offers for people to do havening on one another to help regulate the system. This is also a time of how are we pivoting to continue to provide these services in a time where people are going to be very financially strapped and even more scared and in need of this work. One of the things my team is doing, and Rebecca has launched 3 amazing online groups. I mean, she's just a rock, they're all rock stars, but is how do we make this stuff as accessible as possible, and how do we build in protocols? And so at the June conference, my lecture is about how to do havening safely in a group setting. And so really sponsoring the opportunity to, because groups make it more accessible, it's more affordable, it's more cost efficient. And what do we need more than anything right now? Connection. And so, and I'll be teaching about how to do it safely online. Right. So the more we can make this accessible, and even just do webinars like, I mean, my heart is filled with so much joy. I can feel myself choking up just looking at everybody. So anyway, yeah, Hillary.
Hi, thank you so much, Dr. Rudin, Kate, thank you. Let me just say that first. I wanted to actually touch on the group thing. I've had an extraordinary opportunity to use this modality and do a number of Zooms. First time trying the whole Zoom thing. If you saw my questions on havening, thank you for those who answered. And I found it to be extremely, I was getting a little emotional too, extremely helpful for people. But my concern is that putting it out there in a way where there's a group setting like on Zoom with people who have never done it before, how do we take the necessary precautions really kind of to protect ourselves too? Because having it one-on-one with someone and having them sign your client agreement, making sure you're kind of protected. Now we're opening up this whole world of wanting to share this and the gift of healing, but we still need to be very careful of ourselves as well, Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. And I love that you're noticing and thinking in that direction. For those of you who know me and my team, I'm exceptionally risk adverse. You could probably tell just in this talk. And so like I said, Rebecca's put together a number of online protocols, and we'll dive deeper in that in the workshop. Sorry, my brain just farted. What we want to be looking at is really clear structure and putting in place the fact that with groups, we're not doing trauma reprocessing like we would be doing in a one-on-one. A lot of the work that we've put together in the groups is using a cognitive processing therapy approach with havening built in. And so we have multiple modalities that we're working with and teaching a lot of self-healing and then group healing together. And so that process is really, really important. we've been running these groups for over a year, and we have a lot of data that we've collected. The data is phenomenal. We're moving towards publishing the data, but we'll also have manuals and clinician manuals and client workbooks that we'll be publishing that walk through the stepwise process of doing sexual assault and working with chronic pain and chronic illness, as well as anxiety. So those will be coming in the foreground. But the main thing is structure, 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 and really being clear that you have group norms and a group inventory. So it's not everybody just having their personal inventory, it's the group having a group inventory of safe distractions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa.
Okay. For people who are still getting certified, I assume, are we allowed to turn in our recordings recorded in Zoom?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Yes. Case studies, video recordings, all of those can be done via Zoom. Okay. And again, reach out to the community if you're looking for some guinea pigs. Maybe you're not feeling quite confident doing havening through telehealth yet. There, a lot of us could use it. So reach out to one another, and or go on the Facebook page, reach out to Feliciana. She's regularly connecting people with individuals who are open to being a guinea pig. Yeah. So the entire process, everything's online right now. It is what it is. And yeah.
Okay.
Elena.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for doing that, Dr. Kate. And I just have a question. For this timing, I did with the friends a live 15 minutes guidance, just showing how to use it themselves. Is that a safe way of just open with unknown people who can join to just show a basic technique how to use themselves havening?
So as long as you're safe, as long as you're certified, because we have to go by the rules and psychosurvey, as long as you're certified, and then if you're doing a video that you're giving to your clients, to friends or family, the main caveat I have, and that's why I have this thing called CPR for the amygdala, is we're not sourcing up trauma. We're not inviting them to bring up an experience in their past, even if it was just yesterday, that was really stressful and triggering. We're using this in the moment to navigate ambient distress. And so that I want the world doing. Those are, if you go on my YouTube channel, Dr. Kate Truitt, we're releasing tons of guided meditations. If people want to do guided meditations, I'm happy to edit them, because this as a tool for autonomic nervous system regulation is profound and powerful. So that absolutely.
The only one thing I had in mind, if I address worry during this time into the session and bring it to awareness, is it an unsafe approach for people who may have some past as a trauma and just use as a positive affirmation with the groups that are unknown? Or that's my question of how to approach it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're thinking about these nuances. So right now, if you're doing guided work, if you're releasing recordings and you're doing any type of walkthrough, my suggestion is always, always, always start with distractions.
Okay.
Err on the side that their amygdala, just to Steve's point, that their amygdala's got a lot going on right now.
Yeah.
So let's do distractions, wrap that warm fuzzy blanket around Amy, help her calm down, and then transition into the resiliency and the empowerment work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. He?
Hi. First of all, thank you. Thank you, everybody. One of the things about the havening, just to Melena's question, is everybody is walking around in trauma right now. When we worked with the refugees in Lesbos, we realized we didn't need to bring up any events.
No.
Everybody's already activated, so just go from there. And the safest bet, I feel peaceful, safe, calm. Use Ron's guided meditation for that. And if you look in the resource library, we have a PDF that Irene and Eugenia made for responding to traumatic situations. So you just really want to stay away. You don't want to activate. They're already walking around activated.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my question on that. And then the second thing is I really recommend every morning, somebody grab a buddy. I have a call I do like at 8 o'clock for 5 minutes with a friend, and we just self-haven. And sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's music, but just 5 minutes with a buddy, really connect with them. And you could do it on House Party, you could do it on Zoom, just 5 minutes. It changes your life. And create a healthy mantra. You know, every little cell in my body is happy. Okay, not that one. But whatever one you want. I'm healthy, I'm well, I'm strong, I'm resilient. And do that every morning and haven 5 minutes with another friend. If you did that with their 5 friends and they did it with 5 friends, we'd have 1,000 people saying, I'm healthy and I'm well. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, and a caveat there, if you're not feeling the I am statement, because Amy hates when we lie to her, that's where we go back to the informational havening or creating possibilities. What if I was healthy and strong? What if I was healthy and strong? And then moving forward in the process until your brain goes, oh, I am. Because I don't know about y'all, but I mean, some of you know my story. I had encephalitis, so I kind of walk around with a grenade in my brain that could kill me at some point. And so I'm definitely going, oh boy, right now. And so I'm tuning into the fact that I have a very, very real health consideration. So if I go straight to I am healthy and strong, my amygdala is going, Kate, you are so full of it. You are high as a kite right now. You just go down that little boat because you're just full of it. And so instead, I always start with distractions and then in the morning moving. So distractions in the morning. And then what if I was? Slowly inviting my amygdala, little Amy, into the truth that actually I am really healthy and strong right now. But she's got some layers in her that make her very nervous around that languaging. So for those of us who can take ownership, that's amazing. And, you know, just, I always say, let's start with the question. And if it feels 100% true, go for the affirmation. Yeah, thank you, Fida. And I totally agree. Starting your morning with a mantra, with a havening buddy, connecting, you're giving yourself hugs while you're havening with somebody else.
I like that. Asking yourself a question about that affirmation. That's great. Thanks.
Fabulous. So let's take maybe 2 more questions. And then we'll pop off. Anybody? Maybe we don't have 2 more. Fabulous. All right, so gentle reminder, if you'd like to be added to the mailing list, this will go out on the mailing list. This will also go on the Facebook page. We'll send out to individuals who are on the mailing list, we'll be able to send this documentation. We have the 2 virtual trainings coming up, and I'll type in or Rebecca, do you mind just linking the 4-day, the Los Angeles training that we're leading? So, you know, we have 2 amazing trainings that are coming up, and I just kind of wanted to give people's brains the opportunity to work with whatever works for them with screens. And then on the 20th, we'll have the self-havening seminar, and I'll post about that on the on the Facebook, and then I'll also go out in the newsletter too. And so that's with a wonderful nonprofit here. And that's a launching point for the self-havening seminar that all of our trainers are going to be being trained in as well. All right, everybody stay healthy and well. Thank you for being the amazing humans that you are. And we will see you. And, you know, whatever we can do as a community, as headquarters to support you, let us know. We're here to help you be your best selves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Seriously.
Thank you. Bye. Stay well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Stay safe, everybody. Self-care. Remember your self-care.
Bye, everybody.
Love you all.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
You will.
So I'm going to click off. Perfect. All right. Thank you for your help, Rebecca.
My pleasure. I've got everybody's emails that sent them to me.
Oh, you are the best.
To you. Do you want me to send that to you and Lorelai?
Yeah, if you could send that to
Add to the
Lorelai.
mailing list?
Yeah, that'd be great. Hi, Marianne. All right. So I'm going to log
Oh,
us.
I had a question. Can I ask you a question from Fee?
Yeah.
She was asking if we could provide them with the CPR for the amygdala PDF for them to put in the resource section on thehavening.org. Like,
Yeah, that's
cool.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. All
All
right.
right, I'll head off.
Bye, amazing human. Bye, amazing human.
Bye.
Bye.